Funsize Show!
Welcome back to Currents real quick. Super stoked to sit down today for another Designer Yappy Hour with Dina Williams and Edgar Briseno and Andre Jurgensen joining us all the way from Bend, Oregon. Thanks for hopping in, sitting down, and chatting today.
Thanks for having us.
A couple of interesting things going on at this point in time. Dina is just back from maternity leave.
I'm back.
Yeah, first
Better
week,
than ever.
First week back? Is it second week? Second week back?
Wait, yes?
Either way. I don't know. And then this is my last week before I go fully remote. So I'm moving to Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm super excited. So we're trying to just jam on getting together and talking about cool stuff.
Was this the last recording? Are we in studio?
This is the last Currents recording in studio. Well, I mean, I will be coming back. We'll be recording more.
Emotional.
Yeah. But yeah,
Are you going to continue to do it remote? Like host?
I think so. Yeah. That's the plan. That's the plan. But we will likely try to pack in like bulk recordings whenever I'm in town, so that we can, capitalize on being together and in the same room and studio to
outfit changes every other.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
You're like, why is Tony wearing the same outfit for
didn't think about that, but that is definitely a consideration for sure. But yeah, so like in lieu of all of the things going on in the current state of the world that we're living in, I've been spinning around on a few things. Because I think that some of this stuff is like really topical, and it's not like it's a ever an ending point. And by the way, nobody knows anything about Andre, Dina, Edgar know nothing about what I'm bringing to the table here today. But I think that the topics could resonate in one way or another to each of y'all. And the first one is all about me. Because like I said, I'm about to go remote. So I want to talk about remote work. I want to talk about like what being remote means. And that's exactly why you're here, Andre, is because you are remote and you've been doing it for quite a while now. And I'd love to kind of unpack kind of what it means to be remote now, as opposed to maybe when you chose to go fully remote, Andre. So I guess I just want to start there is, I don't think that I'm nervous about being remote. I know that it'll be a significant change. So like from whenever you started, you made the decision to go fully remote, Andre, like what were you like thinking of and like being like mindful of going into like being fully remote?
Yeah.
How long ago was that, by the way?
This was almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
So yeah, we left Austin right at the start of 2016. So coming up on 10 years. And it's funny because when I approached Anthony and Natalie about leaving, I was, I think with Funsize for maybe a year and some change at that point. I pitched the idea of working remote with the studio, like keeping my job basically. And they were receptive to it and open to it. But I remember Anthony saying like, all right, we're going to try like this trial, like 6-month trial type thing and just see how it goes. So I think my perspective going into it was like, man, I better make this work, like this has to go smoothly. Otherwise I'm going to be in a situation where I need to go and find a new job. And yeah, I think that was my mindset. Funsize was much smaller. It was a different company back then. So I think it was a lot easier to transition into remote work. Not to say that you are going to have a hard time, Tony, because you've been with Funsize for a while and you know everyone. So you've already built that like rapport and culture with everyone. But I think if it was like someone joining the company now in a remote position, it would be maybe a bit more of a challenge for that person. But I was nervous, I remember walking down 6th Street with Johnny and asking him, because he had spent a lot of time working remote with Funsize and Anthony and from New York back in the day. And I don't remember exactly like what advice he gave me, but he was pretty nonchalant about it. He was like, hey, just, be a good communicator and it'll be fine. So that's really what it comes down to. I think, it's easy to kind of get like siloed into your own little hole and not talk to anyone. And that definitely happens for me. If I'm not working directly with folks on like a project, like it can be months and months before I talk to anyone. So,
yeah,
you just gotta be a good communicator.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've been thinking about is like being intentional and like mindful of that communication, the intention of communication, because I think that I'm the same way. I could probably fall into a hole and be on my own for a while. But being remembering like, hey, you're not going to go into the office this week.
Yeah.
You're not going to be around these people this week. So like reach out, say hello, say what's going on.
Do you think like the pandemic kind of helped ease a lot of that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's something I've been thinking about too.
Yeah. Because it feels like, before the pandemic, obviously everybody would go to the office basically the entire week, and it wasn't like we were forced or anything. But coming back, we started, even personally for me, like going maybe just 1 or 2 days or 3 days a week, and that felt enough. So maybe that transition isn't as difficult or changing as much as like Andre's maybe was. And going, like 2016, we were still downtown in the office. Everybody was going to the office constantly, and I think we would even go out and hang out more often than we do now too. So yeah, but maybe.
Yeah, I think that like I've been finding several articles about, because of what we've been talking about, I think is cultural. It's not, and it does like show up and materialize in project, like tactical project stuff. But I think that like just talking about communication, like I was reading into that as like cultural. So maintaining those relationships and stuff like that. But this one article that I came across was like just saying that like in the pandemic and COVID and all that, like just started cutting the connective tissues of like organizations and agencies like ours or in-house teams, and with everybody going remote, it's just kind of like, one, it helped, like, because that was always on like I would say on the remote work, we had always been there, but it was like not accepted. Like, oh, it's not going to work. But like the pandemic like forced people to think about it and prove that it does work. But in a sense, like, and this is neither good or bad, I guess, but it's like an attachment to staying remote. Just for the sake of being remote. Like I've just grown accustomed to being remote, so I'm just going to stay remote. Yeah. And so like those, I feel like in some cases those connective tissues are still trying to rebuild themselves, and some are like just kind of like have been cut off and they're dead now. I don't know. This is a Tony ramble for sure. But like coming from a tactical side too, like I was wondering if shifting to remote and like going through the pandemic, and this article kind of made a nod to it as well, is like, it shifts our roles into prioritizing like delivery and like optimization of our roles, so that we don't necessarily like, because we're not like talking to each other like desk wise. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to go do my job. Like Andre, you say you're going into a whole, likely doing your job and getting things done, which is like really good, but it's like maybe just on your own versus working with somebody. I don't know. Like I said, totally a ramble.
Yeah, but I mean, like remote, like I feel like you do lose some of those like organic collaboration opportunities. Like when you're remote, because like I think we've all probably at least worked remote like for like a week or so, like when we're like traveling or something. Like it's like, unless you're like working on that project with someone and like you have like a meeting, it's a little bit more difficult to collaborate versus like here, if you're in the office, like you can pull over someone from another project and just be like, hey, can I get like your quick thoughts on this? Like come look at my screen. And like, I feel like you do miss out on some of those like more organic collaborations. And like, yeah, like I guess to Andre's point, you have to be way more intentional about that communication if you're remote.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. When I travel down to the office, I get a taste of that again. And that is an aspect that I miss, you know. It is challenging, and it's super nice to have people there sitting right next to you, you know, that you can quickly just spark up that water cooler talk, whether it's about work or not work. Yeah, it's a challenge for sure.
That another thing related to remote work that I've been thinking about a lot and I don't have an answer for. I guess I don't even know if it's a question, but like like in the design world, collaboration is really, really important, because I believe that collaboration and working, like you said, like pulling somebody in another, either maybe they're working on the same project you are, or they're not, can maybe unblock you and kind of like add to the flavor of whatever you're putting together. But with like working remote and just the general nature of like where I think the world is, design world specifically, and the design industry specifically, like it's almost like the state of what companies want, clients want, are like dictating that people. It's like you can be remote, but work remote just kind of means isolation, right? And if you're on a project by yourself, you're isolated, so you're effectively kind of working remotely.
Yeah.
Right. And so in that sense, like I'm thinking about like, what does collaboration mean at that point then?
I think it also depends on industry or your position at company or et cetera, because I think like if you're creating something that's maybe a little bit more creative, collaboration is really strong. But if it's the purpose of, you know, being at the office and not being remote because we want you here for a meeting, like, is it really necessary to do that kind of stuff? Like, are you really fostering like culture at a company if people come to the office and you're stuck in meetings all day? Like, right. You know, is that the type of reason to take away being remote or really pushing people to come back into the office versus something like creative where you were saying, Dina, like it's cool to bring people here and there and do quick like reviews or get feedback initially. I think that has a lot of power and that creates a lot of really great outcomes to it. So it's hard to tell like exactly when people are fighting for a certain, like, let's not do remote anymore, or remote isn't helpful versus remote maybe for some people is if your head's down and it's maybe you and a project that's all that you really need to have. So like, I don't know, and maybe you can talk more about this, but my perspective as a developer, if someone's just building a website, and yes, it's great to collaborate with a designer, but when they just have to be heads down and work, do they really need to be like in the office?
Yeah. In fact, like on those like meeting heavy days or like those days where you just really need to like lock in and focus, like it is preferable for me to just stay home because I know that I'll get distracted.
Yeah.
Someone will be like, lunch? Lunch?
Yeah, I don't know. Just been thinking about it a lot.
I think the culture piece is really interesting because, you know, take Funsize, for example, like culture is a pretty important thing, right, at our agency, but we don't necessarily have that culture of, you know, printing out work and like taping it up on a wall and sitting there as a group and like working on the thing, where some other agencies very much embrace that like traditional way of doing design work. So although, yeah, culture is a high value thing at Funsize, we can do the majority of the work isolated, right? Like you do lose some of those in-person moments, sure. But we're not so like heavily invested in that, like, I don't know what you want to call it. I guess just like the traditional way of sitting down in a room and jamming on design work, that the remote thing just doesn't really affect a studio like us as much as it would some other agency who does embrace that style of working.
Yeah. I think to your point, something interesting that just popped in my head when you were mentioning all that, Andre, was I feel like if you're in the office with someone and creating that culture, like getting to work with people or talking, I feel like that builds more of like trust, which we've built with each other for years. So then that's why we were able to operate remote. Or I was working on 2 projects with Esteban, and we were remote for a majority of the time, like working from home because we needed to be heads down. But we would jump in quick calls and chat about different things or leave comments, but we've known each other for years already, to where there is that trust and we know X person's going to operate at X level and give this like kind of direction and set these kind of ideas. So you almost like don't have that second guessing from that, which allows us to then be remote. We don't need to be in the office. I think if we came to the office, it would ideally just be for like some meetings, or it would be easier to chat about like, hey, how does this look and all that. But it wasn't super necessary. And I personally enjoy coming to the office and getting to talk to people. But if there's times where I need to focus, I'm okay just being at home. And I don't think someone needs me at the office all the time.
There are some workflows where like I do find it way more useful to be like side by side. Like when I think about like taking like a dev QA meeting remote, like that's a lot harder. It's just a lot easier if we're just like looking at it and then I'm like fixing it side by side. It's like sometimes like that I'll be like, let's come in and like let's do it in person. But there is also, I don't know, there's something to be said about like just like that, having that relationship outside of pure work interactions that helps the work go a lot smoother. I think that's also kind of why we would try to push for like meeting clients in person, like for at least the kickoff or something. Cause like, I don't know, the project just runs so much smoother if you just have at least a little bit of like in real life FaceTime.
I think that's like the trust part, or like just getting comfortable with someone.
Yeah. I think that's one of the, like, we haven't done that in a while, to be honest. But I think that I'll 100% agree with that. And I feel like it comes down to like realizing that we're all humans. We're all just like trying to do something hopefully meaningful. And it's, hard to say if that's game or like world changing or not, but meaningful. And then it just helps to make that real whenever you're sitting there across from another person.
We had a client this year fly, like the CEO from Japan came to visit for like a workshop.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And for me, like, putting project to person's face was more motivational, especially hearing them talk about why this product was being built, and that kind of insight where you don't really get it from, the notes from a client or maybe like a virtual kickoff. So it's really cool to have that. And then getting to know them as a person helped out a lot. Would the project have been different if we did it all virtual? Probably. It just, it made a better connection.
Yeah, like when we traveled to Houston for one of our clients and like saw their office space, like went toured everything, like met the whole team and like all the stakeholders, and like I felt like that made a huge difference for like not only our understanding of the product and the landscape, but also just like the whole client relationship.
Yeah. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about hiring us, we want to come visit you. We want to come hang out.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Final point on that, and then I don't know, we can move on to a different topic, Tony. But like, since you are going remote, I think even turning on your camera is such an important thing, because what you guys are saying, right? Like that face-to-face interaction, although it might not be in person, it does help build that relationship a little bit. And it's always weird when like people don't turn on their camera, especially when you're like working with them. So it's just like one of those small things, you know. I think people get kind of awkward sometimes about being on camera, but it's crucial, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I was going to ask if there's any other like tips. Any other tips for well, maybe the other way, Andre. Like, how do you on the other side of it, because you are like on your own officially, or I guess on an island, on like Andre Island. Like, how do you I mean, I guess you said you feel you intentionally communicate so you can still feel connected. Did anything in like the project level that helps you feel like you're there as much as you possibly can be?
That's a good question.
Do you feel like the types of work and projects that you're on is different than if you were in person? Like, do you find yourself more in like an IC role, or like than maybe would be otherwise?
I don't think so. You know, I have recently switched from this design director role to like an IC role, but that was more for personal fulfillment. It's just what I enjoy doing more. But I think it maybe is harder as to be in like that director type of role if you're remote and everyone else is not, you know. Like if the whole team was remote, that's like one thing, but you know, it was kind of challenging being the only person and trying to like build that trust with people that you don't know super well. So yeah, that's my take on that. In terms of projects, I don't know. I don't think it really matters whether you're remote or not.
Yeah.
I had a question for...
I just don't mind.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but we hired a few people while you were being remote. Did you ever work with like someone new that we hired in the remote capacity before you met him in person? And if so, how was like that? Like someone new at Funsize? Because I think during the pandemic-ish, or years after, we were hiring like a few new people. So I was always curious to know how like you've just met them virtually and work with them. And then during the holiday parties, you'd be like, oh, it's you.
This is how tall you are.
Yeah, I think there's been a few for sure. And maybe not, you know, maybe I met them virtually, not in like a project environment, but just kind of like in our all hands or show and tell or whatever. And then you meet them in person. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's like a personality thing. I don't let the remote thing be a barrier to me. Like I'm going to be authentic to someone regardless. And, you know, if we click, we click. And if not, like the remote thing is not going to be the one aspect that like, you know, changes the relationship or any of that. So,
yeah, I think that makes sense. So yeah, I'm excited about it. It'll be weird to be interesting, new. And I'll definitely, since we're having this conversation specifically, I'll definitely ping y'all to let you know how I'm feeling about things.
Yeah.
As we're progressing forward. Another thing that like we've been kind of talking about as a company and talking about, I've been thinking about is the nature of like brand experience. We've been talking about brand experience for a while, and I came across this article. It's actually one that I came across back in like April, and they were talking about like we live in an era of brain rot, right? Where it's kind of like the information that and content that we consume is kind of like the same in that it's extremely like shallow, kind of like likely AI generated to some level, low value and meant to grab your attention, but not really create meaning. And so like this was, like I said, I found this article back in April and I've been thinking about it. And then, like I said, we've been talking about what brand experience means for our clients and like ourselves as an agency. And I don't know. I just wanted to get your, if I'm like, because after I read the article, I started thinking about that and things I see specifically on Instagram. Like, do y'all feel like it all kind of is the same?
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to say because like people that you're connected to, that's the standout content. And that to me seems like the branded content that stands out. But from like things that get served up to me, it feels like they're all the same.
I think maybe like a few years ago, it was always like brands would focus more on the marketing aspect of like, how do we create a moment in social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram. And I think for a while, like influencers were the main push of like product. Mm-hmm. So a lot of maybe of this brand identity moved into how people saw that in videos and marketing and social media presence, versus like, but there were still obviously some other brands that were building like a reputation or creating something that's like sticks out or stands out. Going back to your brain rot comment, the craziest one I've seen was got this brand. It's like a older cookie brand, a peanut butter one. Do you remember?
Nutter Butter.
Nutter Butter.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
So Nutter Butter, legacy brand, what I would consider legacy. They've been there for years. They have a specific brand. They did some of the most chaotic social media stuff ever, and that's like brain rot to me, like at 100%. But it was funny seeing a company like that do it, and then it getting a lot of attention on social media, and then like they're using like a wave, something to promote it, but they've already been established. If a new company kind of did that, would it have worked as well?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But like you remembered it.
Oh, I remember it.
So
yeah.
it made an impression.
Oh yeah. I remember just going through videos and I was like, what is this? It was like some horror-esque video of Nutter Butter cookies like being the weirdest
Gen
stuff.
Z has entered the workforce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I kind of love it though, for certain parts, but
For Nutter Butter.
yeah, for Nutter Butter.
But I feel like it's also like a lot of people just like the brands just start like, oh, this works, and they copy each other, and then it just becomes like, that's why it maybe all looks the same. It's like everyone's just like copying what works, and then at a certain point it all just becomes very flat and not very like creative, you know?
Yeah. This is where we're going to lightly butt up against AI, I think, is because, you know, maybe a lot of these brands are replicating what they see and having maybe this AI content or marketing campaign or whatever. And then I think you're right. It kind of becomes flat, which like is the whole point of having a memorable brand, right? So like, do y'all agree? You have a perspective on like that? Like are brands doing enough to stand out? Or if there are, like, I know you just mentioned Nutter Butter, but are there any others that are standing out?
I think to the point, it's we're at that stage where it's blending out, but the ones that are memorable are the ones that are sticking out, right? Like everything's the same. If everything is the same and someone tries something new, maybe that's what's catching attention right now. I'm trying to think if there's examples of that, especially with kind of using AI tools and whatnot for content.
I kind of feel like the tools themselves are doing standout branding.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that are calling out the use of AI, and I think people are opposed to it for using it for creative purposes in like bigger markets. One example was like, I want to say it was J. Crew. They did like a recent catalog or something released with it, and their photography of like their models was AI, and they got called out for it. And when people discovered that it was used, like these images were created it with AI, they were very like against it, and kind of called out, and then they almost have to kind of like apologize for it. But it's also on their end, they didn't do a good job cleaning it to where it was like that. But then you get in the whole thing of like, you should be paying a photographer to help with that stuff or not, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, I think if you're using those kind of tools, yes, it stands out. Is it standing out for a good reason, or is it standing out for a bad reason, like using AI?
Yeah. The photography thing is really interesting. Like whenever you were talking about, the cleaning of it, I guess. It's like that stupid saying. It's like if a tree fell in the woods and nobody was around to hear it, did it make a noise?
Yeah.
It's like if J. Crew did, use AI to create these photos and they did an amazing job,
got away
cleaning it and got away with it.
Nobody would have said anything.
Nobody would have said a word. Like that doesn't make it right or wrong.
Yeah.
But it's just like nobody noticed.
I think either whether you remove the right or wrong part of it, it is just the reaction people have right now of like, to your point, I guess they got caught.
Yeah. So, but like, to dig into that a little bit further, like why does it matter?
Yeah, like why is
does it
it
matter?
not allowed? Why does it feel like it's cheating?
I don't know. I definitely get the point of like, if you're, apparel, you're modeling clothes, you should probably model them on a real human. And if you need photos of those real humans, you should probably have a photographer. That 100% makes sense to me. But from the other side of it, like, why does it matter?
I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, I think that's the main point that I see is the idea of like, let's hire artists, which is really valid and fair. But I don't know. It's just such a weird, like, mixed topic right now.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of causes a lot of that issue.
Yeah.
That's at least my perception of a lot of it. Don't know.
I also think we're in this phase of, this is all like so new, obviously, and things are changing and people are just adverse to change. And so I think eventually it's going to become more acceptable. How that affects the, photographers and like the people actually who at one point like did the thing, I don't know. But it's only going to become more acceptable, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's funny when you separate that into something like ChatGPT, where people are just like okay with whatever result they're getting or information that's more acceptable,
Yeah.
Like, why is that more acceptable than something that's more visual? Is it just because,
Yeah.
because everybody's like, oh yeah, I use it for all this, I ask it everything. Like, you're okay using that, but then there's some weird divided line. And maybe it is the idea of like the fear of replacing a job or something like that that's causing it. But that's the weird part for me. It's like, if you're using it, you're using it. Can you really like pick which one you're okay with and when you're not?
Yeah, if you're gonna just like copy paste what ChatGPT like spits out at you, I think it's gotten pretty obvious, when AI like writes something, so you can kind of just tell, like, and you can use that as a judgment metric for whoever, if they sent you an email and it's AI generated, you're probably like, okay, this person is either too lazy to write an email or at least like go in and change it, to make it their own. But I think with the way that, I've used AI and like our design work, it's never just I'm going to run this prompt and just take what it gives me and call it good. There's always some level of customization or putting my own spin on it that I try and do. Because then I do agree that like it does feel kind of like cheating in a way. It just doesn't feel good, especially being a designer.
I have a hot take on this here in a little bit. That kind of touches on that a little bit. At least there's a question around that. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking like brands have a really big opportunity, or companies, right, have a big opportunity at this point in time whenever things are becoming flat, similar, predictive, I think, to take a step back and to like think about how they represent their company and their values and what they believe in to the world, to be different, to stand out. Whether that is like Nut or Butter, where it's like maybe they've been taken seriously for so long and they have this like predisposed, maybe society has this predisposed idea of who this company is, but them taking a swing like that is like, oh, wow, they're actually different. They're actually kind of a cool company. You know,
almost
like,
appreciate it, or does stick out. Like one of my favorite social media like accounts was like the Wendy's account. I don't know if you ever.
I do. I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
It's like Wendy's out of nowhere just became a savage on like Twitter and would call out like random companies and stuff like that. So
what does that have to do with burgers? You know,
well, that's the point though. But you remember Wendy's, and then
but that's never made me go to Wendy's. Like same with like the Nut or Butter thing, or like I don't know, like a toothbrush company doing like all this crazy like personality stuff. I'm just like, yeah, I guess like maybe I'll remember the name, but it's not going to make me buy the thing. Like, can't these companies just?
What makes you buy a thing? I'm really interested in this because now you have a newborn baby, and I'm sure there are hundreds of companies throwing themselves at you to buy their things.
That's true.
So what makes you buy things?
I mean, if it's something like a diaper, it's definitely not. I'm not any of those like designed diapers. We're not doing any of that because I feel like that's all just like a gimmick. We're just getting the Costco diaper, you know, the price and it doesn't work, you know, that kind of thing. Like, I think, I don't know. I feel like sometimes these companies are just going too hard on the personality thing where I'm like, not every company has to have a personality. Like, it's just diapers. It's just cookies. Like,
I will say this though, like back to the Wendy's, and then we'll touch on I'm curious I have a question for you about baby stuff. So like maybe for using Wendy's as an example, you aren't going to buy a burger from them because of something they said, but it sticks with you. Maybe the idea is more recognizable. Like, oh, you remember Wendy's at the top of mind. Not everybody's going to remember it, but like had they not done any of this stuff, you never would have thought of Wendy's at all. It's the idea of just like bringing it up, and maybe 1 out of 1,000 decides to go like, oh, Wendy's just roasted McDonald's. I'm going to go for Wendy's instead. And then going back to like maybe more of like purchasing things for a baby, like what separates something from like a specific crib, right? Like a brand, is that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I like to be surrounded by beautiful things. So like, yes, I do pick the more well-designed, like physical designed option. I guess their branding probably has a part of like how they've marketed it and like how they kind of showcase that beauty. But also there's some companies, which I won't name names, but I just feel like
let's name some names.
They just go really hard on like the, like, you know, if you don't get this for your baby, then like you're like destroying their life.
Oh,
or like
wow,
you're not
really?
educated. Like it just seems very dramatic. And that to me, I'm like, well, you're overcompensating for like, you're just trying to convince me that like that I need this thing where like, I'm sure babies, you know, who didn't have all these special toys? Einstein, you know, like you don't need all this stuff. Like, so I feel like some of those are just overcompensating for their lack of value.
It's going to be my next quote. You know who didn't need this?
You know who didn't have this product?
That's perfect. I love that. I lost my train of thought completely.
Wendy,
I was say, what's that?
Sorry, Tony. I was gonna, as Edgar was talking about Wendy's, I thought, how awesome would it be if they like brought that marketing strategy into real life, and like if you go to their drive-thru and like order something, they just like roast you on the spot.
People would go to.
See, I would consider that if it was more of an experience when you're there.
I agree. I think like the fact that they are just boxed into like a social media account. But I don't know. It's maybe there's a brand out there that does that, and that is like, that's what you've known them for. They're just like rude.
There is one, but I've never been there. Dick's Last Resort.
I don't think
a restaurant. Apparently they're like rude to you.
Wait, it's in an older restaurant.
Yeah, it's,
right?
like
It's been there for years.
Yeah,
the waiters are purposely. I remember hearing.
I've heard it's an experience, but I've never been to one.
Maybe they're getting a bunch of business just because you just want to be treated like shit.
Like experience giving. in a way.
Yeah, I don't know what makes me buy things. I don't know if I really buy things very much, but
yeah, I definitely like well designed like.
Oh, that's what
things.
I was going to say.
Yeah,
is you're basically saying you have good taste.
Yeah, I'm saying my taste is better.
So you connect with things that are expensive.
Yeah. I mean, not always expensive, because like there's definitely some things that like just look beautiful, but they're actually the cheaper option. So like, or like they're maybe the less well branded option too. I don't know. For me, it literally is like the actual physical thing if it looks nice.
What about local versus big box?
I love local. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like if I can find it local, which I guess that tends to be sometimes more of a hassle, but like I think it's always worth it. Yeah. But at the same time, I know sometimes the big box stuff easier to return.
You said you just love Costco.
I do love Costco.
Yeah, Costco.
Sponsored by Costco.
That would be.
We recently got our Costco membership back after like giving it up for 2 years. Because we were buying too much. We'd go into Costco for like toilet paper, and we just bought too much.
Do that too.
That's the thing. Like, oh, just go to run to Costco real quick.
Yeah.
Like $300 later.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's like it really is worth it for like the diapers and the wipes and the toilet paper. Like as long as you stick to the basics, then it's good. But it's very hard to do that sometimes.
That's my question to you, Tony, is like you were asking Dina what makes her purchase a product.
Yeah.
And tying it back to brand, what attracts you to certain products or brands?
Yeah. I think, so I'm getting older in my older age. And I think that I like look for organizations that have a purpose and like have like, not every company is going to have a purpose or a greater goal or something like that, or at least one that is like the ideal one. But I think that if they have, and whenever I say purpose and goal, it's not like back to the earth all the time or like for humanity or anything like that. But like if I know that this company like stands for something, and they can at least formulate it into like a cohesive statement that I can read, and it makes sense to me, I'm like, okay, I could get behind that. Cool. But I think that other than that, I also have great taste, you know?
Yeah, I just have such high refined taste.
Yeah.
What about you, Andre? Because I am curious to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. It's probably just like a combination of all those things, you know. Products that are well designed are obviously gonna like get the bump up to the top, right? Local is a big part of it. Like these snowboards just behind this shoulder here, you know, they're both from a company here in the Northwest, and they're environmentally conscious. So to me, it was just kind of like a no-brainer. And anytime I buy a snowboard after that, I'll probably pick up one of theirs. Or it's just, you know, I am like somehow personally attached to a brand through one of my passions, you know. If I follow a certain influencer or athlete, you know, that reps a brand that I can really get behind, then I'll get influenced in that way. So yeah, maybe just kind of like a combination of all those things, probably. And then there are brands that I've been supporting since I was a kid. Like I still wear Vans, you know, I've worn Vans my whole life, basically. So, yeah.
You know, that makes me think, like, I feel like a lot of times, like, especially now, it's like your personality kind of gets a little bit tied into like what brands and what you surround yourself with, you know, a little bit. Like, I don't know, like especially I see this with like a bunch of influencers that kind of recommend all their stuff. It's like you're kind of in a way judged by the stuff that you have in a way, you know? So like I feel like people are kind of being more careful about what they kind of curate out of that. Because like, you know, that people might see it and then they'll kind of make an assumption of like, yeah, you know, like your personal brand based on what you align yourself with.
That's a good point.
I don't know, do you feel that way with like, especially like when you get into like hobby stuff, like if you have like a certain...
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so obviously y'all know that I'm big into fishing, and you can co-sign on this, Andre. The different types. Okay, so you know what fishing waders are? You know what those are? So you can. It's basically
that bobs in the water?
No. So you can put basically they're overalls, right? You can get in the water and stay dry. Well, there's a perception, and I'm not going to go into this very far, but there's a perception of the different brands of waders are very definitive of the kind of person you are.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
I feel like that's with any kind of hobby or like, like you can wear a certain this level or this level.
So wait, which kind of fisher are you?
Yeah, what waders are you rocking?
Reveal yourself.
Well, no, I have Sims. So
Sims. The purist.
See?
But see, even that, like hearing like, he's the purist in that situation and all that stuff. Yeah, you're right though. It exists on like every kind of product, which is funny to think about.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are talking about brand experience a lot, and obviously companies and organizations need brands, but with the rise of, more and more and more technology that becomes more and more and more accessible, like and also because, again, we're talking about AI here, it starts to train itself on the things being generated, and as the more things become generated, then maybe the more flat they become. So there's an opportunity for companies to kind of like take a second and to do something meaningful. I think that will stand out. So
yeah, and some companies definitely like for like products that have existed forever. I feel like some companies are just kind of like rebranding that item in a way that like kind of rises above. But I mean, especially for some of these like baby items, in my experience, it works. The cheap one works just as fine as the really expensive, well-branded one. But branding, I don't know, is really powerful when like you get a company that can kind of stand out in that way. So I don't know.
And I think that this is an assumption. If you try something, whether it's like the lower cost item, the less branded item, or whatever, and if it works, that's what's going to make you tell somebody else about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or if it does something for you, I think that's a higher driver than like the identity or like the brand. The brand itself is like, how good of a job did it do?
Yeah.
I think too, like all the stuff we've been talking about, even, how these companies are trying to be different, what's like common now. I think there's so many options you can go with that it's hard to pinpoint what's going to work and what's not. The legacy brand is a legacy brand because they've been doing so well for years. Something new maybe won't work for somebody who is already established because it seems fake. Like trusting a product and just word of mouth. Like even Andre saying, like, go an influencer suggested something and then you trust it because of that. There's so many options to go about it. Like, I think we're at that point maybe with branding where you can't pinpoint it, at least not that I know of. You can pinpoint it to one thing that makes something successful.
It all comes back to trust.
Well, okay. And maybe this is the last thing and we'll move on about branding, but there's a lot of elements that go into a brand, right? There's the way that it looks, the way that it feels, like what it does, what it means, a lot of other things too.
I feel like a big part of the experience too is like the ease of purchase. I don't know.
Oh, like basically like
The online experience. If you're buying
like
online.
that. I thought you were meaning like the financial accessibility, like how much it costs.
That too, but like also just like how easy is it to get? Is it like a really, I don't know, kind of difficult process? Like in a way, like sometimes local can be a blocker for people that don't live in a place that like sells stuff like that. Or like, you know, like a handcrafted type item, and like maybe Amazon's more accessible, like that, just like that kind of online experience.
Yeah. So with all of those factors, so sometimes people say a brand is not what it looks like, it's what it feels like. How long does it take to make a brand?
Again, you can't, when you release something, you don't know how successful it's going to be, and it can take years for something to work. Sometimes like someone can create something without a brand, and the product itself is what fuels it, and then they go through like a rebrand. So it's hard. It's hard to tell like what's successful. And a way to kind of tie that back in is like a not branding, but something similar is like music, right? Artists. Some artists take years to get big, and
exactly the same thing. Yeah.
And then other ones immediately hit it off. Like you just can't pinpoint at that. I mean, I wish there was like a secret formula, and that would help our job be a lot easier, because we're like, yeah, we know how to make you big, but yeah, it's hard to pinpoint that.
Yeah.
I think too, if like, and I guess this could probably pertain to both physical products and like digital products, but I guess I'm thinking about it from like a physical product lens. But if you're part of a community, you know, and you develop a product that like makes sense and you believe in and is actually going to help that community that you're in, then that's almost kind of like fast tracking you to success versus the, you know, the like weird like startup phase that we've seen come and go, and maybe it's still around, I don't know, but this like serial entrepreneur mindset where you're just like, I gotta like make something and sell it, and you don't care what it is. Like, I think you can tell the authenticity of a brand or a product based off of that alone, whether someone's creating something that they believe in versus just kind of like a quick money making thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. You can suss it out real quick when somebody's just in it for a quick turn. Okay, cool. Last topic, and we don't have to stay on this for too long. This is definitely maybe treading further into the AI territory here. But we were talking about this the other day. I had my first experience using Figma Make last week and was pretty pleasantly surprised. Have y'all used Figma Make? I know you might have.
I dabbled a little bit after you showed me this, yeah.
What did you think?
Kind of incredible. I don't know. I think it's really cool. Like, I feel like it's a great way to like at least get people on the same page a lot quicker. I think it'd be really cool to like kind of be, I guess you don't have to be in person, but like it'd be like side by side, just kind of like collaborating on like just talking through something, having Figma Make assist you in making it. Basically, it's like having a developer there, you know, kind of. So I think it's really cool.
Have you played around with it?
I used it for something more like photo based, or maybe it was icon, and this was a while, not that long ago, but I didn't like what it produced, and I was like, cool. That's the extent I did it. It was like, this is slowing me down. I didn't have time to play around with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been hearing that it does like make things a lot easier in terms of ideas. So I'm curious to try it. I just haven't had the reason to be honest. Sure. So.
Yeah, I just tried it around because go ahead, Andre.
I was just going to ask, what is it? Because I've seen it pop up on my little thing, but I'm like Edgar, I haven't had the reason to try it.
So I had forgotten about it. I remembered, the reason why I remembered Figma Make is because my wife asked me about it. She was like, I was saying something. She was like, oh, just use Figma Make. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And I remembered what it was. And it's, they released it, Figma released it at the past release event, and it's their prompt-based generating tool, like, AI generating tool, where all the design inputs are handled through essentially all prompt-based, text-based conversation. And so, I was messing around with it, and I was, like I said, I was pretty pleasantly surprised too. And the reason why wasn't exactly directly correlated to the outputs, because the outputs were decent. I wouldn't say good by any means. They were decent. What I was impressed by is, that the outputs were design artifacts, but they were all code-based. And it was essentially like a code-based prototype, like fully code-based prototype.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting, because whenever I had said for a long time that, like, prototyping mode in Figma is pretty good. I think there's definitely room to improve, but it's pretty good. But where it falls is the fact that it's not code based, because you take that and you hand it to a developer, they're still going to have to take it apart and do what they need to do for them to have a starting point. But if there's a code-based prototype, that's reducing the gap between design to implementation. And I'm going to eat my words right here, right now, on Framer, because that is one of the reasons why I thought Framer. The backstory is I was on a project and we had to use Framer, and it was a really, really steep learning curve because. And I haven't used it since then, but it was like the way that the design tool in Framer was built is around code. And so all of the elements and structuring of your designs are the way that they would be structured in code. And looking back now, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, because it's definitely shortening that gap.
Yeah.
Between design and development. Yeah. So my point, what I'm rolling up to here, my point is, and my point is not about really AI, I guess. I led into this with AI, but is Figma slowing the industry down? Because everything traditionally in the tool has to be made by a human with a square and a circle and a line and a rectangle. And then that thing has to be taken to be reviewed. I don't know. This is a loaded question, and I don't have an answer to this. I was just thinking about, like, because of this experience that I had with Figma Make and the fact that it output like really significant like code-based stuff. I was like, this is like is like the attachment to this like bespoke hand-making tool, like slowing innovation, slowing design down.
Well, yeah, and you think about how long it would take you to make a prototype that robust, and like how many screens it would take, how many like states you'd have to get every little thing to work. You'd have to like put a lot into that to make it. But like Figma Make, if it works well, can just make it for you pretty fast. I feel like, yeah, in a way, like traditional prototypes with Figma is a very clunky way of doing that. Kind of like how now the idea of us using like Envision to like, you know, like just layer screens on to simulate an interaction. Right. That's kind of how like we might look at this later of like, wow, that was really clunky. We had to like just fake interactions, whereas like it was actually code. It's
right.
Like, this is actually an interaction. It's actually happening. You can get to a lot of those edge cases a lot faster, because like it's so easy to miss things when you're the one making like 100 screens. Like you can't always think of everything, but like this is like, and I feel like it's cutting a lot of that away.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, in a way.
Yeah.
Like slowing it down in the sense of like we're not going to need to necessarily design in Figma to move straight to development. Like
yeah,
at that point.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll not need Figma. I mean, you can't just use exactly what it outputs from.
No, but more so like I've been hearing that some of the expectations are designers. The future could be to start roughly developing some of that framework and stuff like that. So at that point, it's like, yeah, are you creating something static for yourself, or are you moving straight into creating like the framework and you have these tools to help you develop a lot quicker and then implement it yourself, versus having to kind of pause at more like the static or the prototyping phase and then wait till the developer comes in? Can a designer take it even further, start laying out the framework, and then have someone who's more focused as a developer,
the front end,
fix the rest of it?
Yeah, what I think is so cool from what you showed me is like just how quick like making changes is, because like if you think about the way that we work now, it's kind of like you craft all these screens, then you present it, then you have to like wait for feedback, and then like the feedback is kind of like, oh, like, what if we tried this, and then you like iterate, you have a couple iterations of that. But like now it's kind of like, I don't know, like sometimes I'm sure in projects you've been in a case where like you just feel like you're like just the hands that do something, like someone else is telling you the thing to do. But like now it's kind of just making that into like Figma Make is not doing that. Like you're kind of the one just like, oh, like do this and it'll do it a lot better.
Yeah. And I think that I'm tracking with what you're saying, and I'm really trying to tread lightly on like the AI as the technology and the humans controlling the inputs, one from like the prompt based element or interface, and then the actual like hand contributions to the thing, and then also like the outputs of a static prototype and a code based prototype. Well, because like the inputs, I don't know. This is where I'm at with it. I'm not exactly sure. It's just like, I think that having like, it's like Figma Framer is like an in-between of like Figma and Webflow. Mm-hmm. So if you push those together and it's a tool that you're designing, you're live designing, your human inputs are coming together and coalescing into code. Mm-hmm. And you're already kind of speaking the language of the next person that will come in to what you're saying to pick it up where you left off and push that forward. And I think that's magic. I think that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So that's all what I'm saying is like Figma is not code based. Mm-hmm. It's almost like Figma is still essentially like a Photoshop. Yeah. It's like rasterized. So like, I don't think I have an endpoint to this. It's just like literally like whenever I was using it, I was like, holy shit, like this could make things, well, the output could make things a lot faster. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think Andre had brought up a good point and kind of just encompassing AI as a whole or like a tool. And I feel that similar to this, it's not you create something, you spit it out, and that's what you use. Like same thing with Figma, spits out a code that maybe is not as usable as you could.
Yeah.
It's more like, for me personally, it's helped me get my ideas out, and I don't feel limited on what I can create now. Whether that's
Figma or like
AI as a whole. I see. So it includes this too. If I wanted to, Framer allows me to actually create and develop a site.
Got it.
Midjourney allows me to get more specific with a very unique asset that I want to create, and now helps me further that and to create a video asset or something that I can use to showcase an idea that I had before. Yeah. That maybe it would have taken me another skill to learn or more time to figure out than I wanted to. But if it's just idea and creating these themes, it's expediting my work in that sense. Mm-hmm. Or not expediting, but giving me the flexibility and more tools to make something that's in my head a reality.
Yeah. I think that's really cool about like all these like low code or no code tools, and like AI is like, it's kind of giving people that maybe, like didn't have like this skill set or like this knowledge of how to do it, like the ability to like create something or get something out of their head that they didn't have before. Like they'd have to before engage with like a developer and like, or maybe even like assuming they don't have any like design either, like they'd have to go through a designer, then the developer. And it's like now you can at least get like a proof of concept out so much quicker, and you don't have to, rely on anyone else. You can kind of do a lot of it to start. Yeah. And I think that's kind of cool. Like it's giving people more power, and it'd be interesting to see what, like hopefully good ideas come out of that, and it doesn't just turn into, I don't know, just a bunch of slop.
Yeah.
I think to that point, people can call out what's good versus not, because it's like if someone just inputs something and they're like, look, I made a brand out of a brand and a website and all this just by typing in some stuff into whatever tool you want to use. You're like, okay, it works, but it might not look great.
Yeah.
And you can see like, oh, this seems like something that was just done quickly in AI.
Yeah. Andre, hot takes. I know you love AI.
No hot takes. Yeah. I'm all out. I'd be curious to try it. Like I just based off like what you guys are saying, I want to try it. It seems cool talking about Figma Make here specifically. But yeah, no opinions on that as of yet. Can't judge it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have an end thought on that. It's just like,
It is
to me, it's like two things. It's maybe three things. The investment that we as a design, as capital D designers have made into a singular tool, and also companies that have invested their products, brands, and who knows whatever else into a tool. Whenever
it could go in a cycle though. I mean, what was the one you were talking about? Forget the name of the prototyping one. Envision.
Oh,
how much money went into that?
Mm-hmm.
And like,
let's have a moment of silence.
I know the email everybody got.
What's his name? Carl?
Clark.
What's his name?
Clark.
From Envision.
Yeah,
Clark
from
from
Envision.
What is he? Where is he now?
Exactly. But like, yeah, those tools, like, what if the next tool is more of code based and maybe Framer is the one that actually overtakes that?
Yeah.
Or another tool that is more catered to designers with the intention of outputting code.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's definitely going that way. And I feel like we're going to be in a couple of years, like looking back on this and being like, wow, that was so clunky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is Figma going to be the one leading that, or is a new tool going to come in? You never know. So
I don't know. Well, yeah, we'll see. Okay, cool. Well, I know we're probably going to wrap up here pretty soon. I have some like rapid fire questions that I kind of put together. You don't really have it. You just get to answer. You don't get to ask a question. You don't get to unpack it.
got it.
Until after we're done. Then we can come back to stuff if you want. But I need an answer from all three of you.
Should we figure out our order right now so we're not?
We'll just go around the room. Andre, you're going to be last. Or we'll go this way and then we'll go back. Go this way.
Okay.
First question: is design art?
Yes.
Yes.
Andre?
Maybe.
Is design slowing innovation?
No.
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 You sounded confused.
Is design precious?
No.
Maybe.
No.
Is design a trade?
Yes.
Answer first. Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, that one is interesting. I didn't know that we're going to have that much alignment. Is design a science?
No. Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to explain, obviously, but yeah.
Is design a science, Andre?
It can be.
Okay. Is design disruptive?
It can be.
So yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes.
Okay, we have 4 more. Is design emotional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can be.
Is design overrated? Better not say it can be.
No. No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Damn. I'm torn 50-50. Sometimes.
Yeah. Yes.
Is design kind of related? Is design too trendy?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the last one, is design enough?
No.
No.
I agree with that one too. I would say no. I want to come back real quick. Is the design a trade? Yeah, all said yes.
Yeah. Like people go to, an equivalent of trade school for it, or it's like a specialized skill. Like in that way, I would say yeah.
So I would have thought that it would have been a different perception maybe a few years ago. It's a craft. But is a trade a craft?
Yeah, actually, so what is the difference between a trade and a craft to you?
Like a trade to me is like, it's almost like, this is not a diminutive statement, but like a developer. Like you're trained to do a very specific thing, like electrician or plumbing, or that's traditionally sense of trades. Whereas designer or design is a little bit amorphous, I think. And I think that the reason why I think I agree with you is because like it feels like things are becoming a little bit more specified in terms of like there's like I don't know. I'm not going to go too far.
I think with product design, it became a trade.
Yeah, product design.
But to your point before, when people were just hired to do, even then there were specific jobs, like were you doing more marketing or print versus something digital, introduce that. But like now you have dedicated schools or programs to just teach product design. So to me, then that became a trade.
Got it.
Do I think a trade is better than just a craft? If you flip it the other way, no. I think the more rounded you are as a designer, the better you'll be off in this space.
I think it could be both, though, because, I mean, you can go to design school, right? You can learn the basics and the guardrails that could help you produce, like, good, quote-unquote, design. But you still need that, like, eye, right, to take it to that next level, which I then think it could then become a craft. So I think it could be both. Just like a plumber, can do like the basic plumbing, but then you might have a plumber that takes it to the next level and thinks about stuff that, your average plumber might not. I would also consider that more of a craft.
I agree with that. Well, cool. Thanks y'all for hanging out for a little bit and allowing me to ramble and pick y'all's brains on stuff. And thanks, Andre, for joining from so far away. And maybe next episode I will be just like you, another face on a screen.
Is that all I have to do?
Thanks, y'all.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For having us.
Tune in for the next one.